former Labor Minister Graham Richardson and former Labor MP Michael Danby. Welcome to you both. Now, I'm horrified by this whole concept that Keir Starmer has come up with. He's going to recognise the state of Palestinian if Israel hasn't made peace. It all sounds back to front. Michael Danby, please explain to me, what does this madness mean? And is Anthony Albanese going to go down the same route of recognising what has to ultimately be a terrorist state?
Well, as all of them say, there's momentum. But we're about a smidgen from getting a ceasefire with Hamas 2 weeks ago until Penny Wong, Starmer, Macron all came out with this. We demand a unilateral ceasefire. As Greg Sheridan pointed out, it also said a negotiated ceasefire in their announcement. But what it did is it sabotaged the actual ceasefire. It's hard to see how recognition of a Palestinian state advances everything while there's still Hamas in Gaza, which these people say at the same time can't be involved in running a Palestinian state. So what happens the day after? These people haven't thought through. The whole idea originally was for it to be negotiated between the Israelis and Palestinians. They could really help if they got an election going in the West Bank and got the Palestinian Authority, after years, into condition to negotiate with the Israelis. But at the moment, well-intentioned people all around the world are being misguided by cynics in Western governments who are playing virtue signalling for their Muslim parts of their electorate.
Richo, what sickens me, I spoke earlier about the photo that Albanese, the Prime Minister, mentioned on Insiders last week. I was appalled by the whole thing. But as Henry Ergas points out in The Australian, the world goes berserk over a propaganda image but ignores the genuine suffering, you know, in places like Sudan, where 500,000 people are in serious malnutrition problems.
Yeah, it's quite bizarre. And, you know, the Sudan has just got problems that are insurmountable, and people die, children die every minute, and no one seems to care. It seems to just pass. But if anything happens at all that involves Israel, everybody cares. I think that's a bit rich.
Yeah, I agree with you. Now, we had the news earlier today that we're getting 10% tariffs, where we got off very, very lightly. We're way ahead of many countries which have done far, far worse. Michael Danby, so this is good news. Trump has already shown how much money he's making out of tariffs. Were you pleased about the result?
I was very pleased. It just shows you that Australia has such goodwill in the United States still, notwithstanding the failure of the Prime Minister to meet up with the big redhead or orange head, and you know, Pine Gap and the naval base in West Australia and other facilities that we share with the United States here in Australia must be standing us in good stead. We will nonetheless face the reality that at some point the Americans are going to ask us, if you want those submarines, step up, boys, and pay the same rate of defence for yourself that the Europeans are now agreeing to pay.
Richard, I wanted to ask you about the war on renewables. Donald Trump was in his two major discussions with the head of the EU, Ursula von der Leyen, and with Prime Minister Starmer. He slammed the whole windmills in Europe as a con job, a costly eyesore, killing bird life and so on. He went on and on about it. Have a quick listen.
I think they're going to end up in the same place. You might as well go there quicker. And the other thing I say to Europe, we will not allow a windmill to be built in the United States. They're killing us. They're killing the beauty of our scenery, our valleys.
Richo, can the Labor Party and the Labor government here keep ignoring what is happening around the rest of the world when we are putting all our eggs in the windmill basket, as it were?
Yeah, I think we can keep trying. That seems to be what Labor's doing on this. No one wants to admit that. I think you know, it's all too late. The world has moved on, and we've got to move with it. And I just think so many people in Labor are just too reluctant to have change, and yet Labor's supposed to be the party of change.
There you go. Well, Michael Danby, here was Chris Wright, who's Donald Trump's energy minister. Have a listen to him being very upfront about renewables and the fact that, you know, the complexity of the energy grid does not work with what we're doing with renewables, certainly here in this country.
When peak demand comes, when it's very cold, in the evening time, well, all the existing thermal capacity and nuclear capacity has to run and drive the grid. So if you don't add to the reliable production at peak demand time, you're not adding to the capacity of the grid. You're just adding to the complexity and cost of the grid.
So, Michael, my question is, we're not adding to the grid, we're also making it more complex, which, as Chris Wright goes on to point out, makes energy just more and more expensive. Yet, here we are facing the industrial revolution, if you like, of artificial intelligence, where we are going to need massive amounts of energy, or we're just going to be left behind. We're going to be the poor little cousin in the South Pacific. What should we be doing, Michael?
Ever since Graham was Environment Minister, Australia's been opposed to pollution. But paying vast amounts for renewable energy, especially for transmission lines, is costing us and not adding to power safety. As that bloke pointed out, you need to have baseload power, gas or coal that can be just switched on if the wind's not blowing or the sun's not shining. So we can continue to live in this renewables cloud cuckoo land, funded particularly by the businessmen who fund the teals, but eventually the engineering will meet the ideology and the engineering will win.
Thank you so much, Michael Danby and Graham Richardson. We'll speak again soon.